Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the Czar of the playbook, bringing you the Czar's starting lineup, week 1 of the NFL fantasy football season. We're going to talk about some starts, some guys you should sit, and also some sleepers from every NFL game on the slate for week 1. So let's get this thing kicked off by starting in the Meadowlands with the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Giants. You look at the Cowboys in this game. Some guys I want you to start, DeMarco Murray. I like the way he runs the football. I think he's going to have a lot of success versus that Giants defense. You can also start Tony Romo. I think the way he avoids pressure, gets in and out of the pocket, puts a lot of pressure on the passing game for the defense to try to stop. So I think he's going to have some success throwing the football against that Giants secondary. You also want to start the Dallas Cowboys defense. Eli Manning is not as mobile as Tony Romo, so I think the Cowboys will be able to get some sacks in that ball game. Now for the New York Giants, you want to start Victor Cruz. I think Victor Cruz will have some success as most of the attention will be focused on Hakeem Nicks. Look for Cruz to be the beneficiary of that coverage and get a lot of passes. Now some guys you want to sit for Dallas, you want to sit Dez Bryant. I think the Giants will roll cover toward Dez Bryant and force those other wide receivers to have success. So Dez Bryant may not have that big of a day versus the Giants secondary. You also want to sit for the Giants. You want to sit Hakeem Nicks and also Eli Manning. Those two guys I think won't have as big of a day as expected. So sit those two guys. Now some sleepers you want to look at. Sleepers for the Giants, Ramses Barton, I think, will come up big this game, so keep an eye on him. He may be a guy you want to stash on your roster. And for the Cowboys, Dwayne Harris, I think, may be a sleeper as that number 2 or 3 wide receiver, depending on the health of Miles Austin. Now let's move over to the Colts in Chicago. In this game, you got a rookie quarterback going against a very good Bears defense. So instantly for the Bears, you want to start their defense and special teams. They have one of the best special teams in the league. You also want to start Jay Cutler. I think he's going to have a phenomenal day throwing the football versus that Colts secondary, and Matt Forte running the football against the weakened interior defense of the Indianapolis Colts. Keep an eye on that. I think Forte you should start this week in your fantasy league. You also, for the Colts, want to start Donald Brown. I think Donald Brown is very underrated this year, very much a sleeper in fantasy football. So you want to start Donald Brown versus that Bears defense, and also start Andrew Luck. I think he's going to have some success throwing the football underneath in those short passing games, and he has some talent at the tight end position in particular that can get yards after the catch. Keep an eye on that. Now, guys you want to sit, I say sit Brandon Marshall this week versus that Colts defense. I think they're going to focus their attention on Brandon Marshall, so look for the other guys like Alshon Jeffrey, Earl Bennett, those guys that have some success catching the ball. And I also would sit Michael Bush. I think Forte is going to rip off a lot of big runs. He won't, Bush, and I'm talking about, Bush won't get the luxury of having those short runs at the goal line in the red zone. So sit Michael Bush. For the Colts, you want to sit Reggie Wayne. The Bears, Charles Tillman will probably be on Reggie Wayne. They'll do a great job of keeping him out of the ball game. And you also want to sit Adam Vinatieri. They're playing outdoors in Chicago. Very tough game. I don't think the Colts will move the football that much against Chicago, so he would be a non-factor. Now, some sleepers in this game for the Colts, Fleener and Allen. Dwayne Allen and Kobe Fleener. Those two tight ends will have some success versus that cover 2 defense. Now, for the Bears, sleeper could be Alshon Jeffrey. Keep an eye on this guy. I think he's going to be in the slot, and he's going to take advantage of the interior when they widen out that 3-4 defense. So Alshon Jeffrey would be a sleeper in the Colts and the Bears game. Now let's move over to Kansas City when the Chiefs take on the Atlanta Falcons. Now you look at the Falcons, I would start Michael Turner. I'm not too sold on the Chiefs interior defense, and I also would start Julio Jones because I think he's going to do a great job of getting moved around the formation and creating some success. And I like what I saw at the Falcons in the preseason, throwing the football deep down the field. So I would say start Michael Turner and also start Julio Jones. For the Chiefs, I would start their defense. That 3-4 defense with those linebackers can be aggressive. They can do a great job of getting pressure on Matt Ryan. So I say start those guys, and I love their special teams out there. And I would say start Peyton Hillis. I think he's going to be the guy that's going to get the bulk of the yards in this game as opposed to Jamal Charles. So some guys you want to sit. Obviously, you want to sit Matt Castle. I'm not too keen on him throwing the football, so I say sit him and take your chances with any other quarterbacks that you may have on the roster. And for the Falcons, you want to sit Tony Gonzalez. I think he's going to be asked to block a little bit more this week as those edge rushers will put pressure on the Falcons quarterback. Now, some sleepers in this game for the Atlanta Falcons, I would say a sleeper would be Jacquizz Rodgers. I think he's going to do a great job on those screen plays. Keep an eye on him. May want to stash him on your roster. And Jamal Charles is a sleeper instead of a starter because I think he will get those big plays in bunches, but he won't get the bulk of the carries. I think Hillis will get the bulk of the carries in this matchup. Let's move over to Philadelphia versus Cleveland. You look at what Cleveland brings to this table. Start the Browns defense. They have a very solid defense. I actually like their special teams as well with Joshua Cribbs. I would also start Greg Little, the wide receiver, as he is the only receiving threat on that roster. Now, for the Eagles, you have to start LaShawn McCoy, best running back in the game as far as versatility is concerned. You also would start Michael Vick and the Eagles defense. I think the defense will put a lot of pressure on the rookie Brandon Whedon. And speaking of Whedon, you want to sit him this week. I don't think he's going to have success versus the Eagles pass rush. And I will sit Jeremy Maclin. I think Deshaun Jackson will get the bulk of the passes this week. So sit Maclin, start Jackson. Sleepers in this game, Trent Richardson would be a sleeper in my opinion for the Browns offense. I think he's going to get some carries. If he proves to be healthy, he's going to get even more carries as the game progresses. And I would also look at Brent Selleck as a sleeper for the Philadelphia Eagles. Tight end play is huge. I think he's going to have a lot of openings across the middle of the field for Michael Vick. Let's move down to my hometown, New Orleans, as they take on the Washington Redskins. You want to start the Redskins defense. When you have guys like Kerrigan coming off the edge, or Rackboy, if he's healthy, coming off the edge, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Drew Brees, and Drew Brees routinely struggles with 3-4 defense. So I would start the Redskins defense. They're a very stout bunch. I would also start Pierre Garçon. I think he has the opportunity to have a big day to help out the rookie Robert Griffin III. For the Saints, the 3-4 defense means they're going to go down the middle and on the interior a lot. So I would start Jimmy Graham and also Marcus Colson, the quote-unquote number 2 tight end. You want to start those two guys. I think they will get you a lot of points versus the Washington Redskins in that weekend safety position. Now, I would sit Pierre Thomas if I were you, and also Lance Moore and Devery Henderson. The Saints won't go deep down the field. They go deep down the middle. Those outside receivers won't have success. Pierre Thomas or any Saints running back, you definitely want to sit. Now, for the Redskins, sit Alfred Morris. Don't trust any Mike Shanahan running back. You don't know who's going to get the bulk of the carries as the game goes on. So I would sit Alfred Morris. And also sleepers, Sproles. Screen game versus blitz. Big plays right there. You might want to keep an eye on Sproles. And also Fred Davis for the Washington Redskins. Tight end play kills the Saints. Fred Davis is a good one. Let's move up to Detroit as they take on the St. Louis Rams. A guy you want to, let's start with the Rams. You want to start Sam Bradford. I think he could have some success throwing the football against that Lions secondary. And keep an eye on Danny Amendola. Underneath passes, make one miss, gets a lot of yards after the catch. I'm a big fan of his. Now for Detroit, obvious choice, Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford. That's it, point blank. Start those two. Guys you want to sit, any Lions running back. Sit those guys. I don't care who's in the backfield. If I was in the backfield, sit me too if I play for Detroit. Sit the Detroit Lions running backs if you have any on your roster. And you also want to sit Brandon Gibson for the St. Louis Rams. I think Amendola will get the bulk of the receptions. Sit Gibson, start Amendola. Some sleepers. Keep an eye on the Rams defense. I think that's a sleeper in this ball game, and also Isaiah Pete, as I think Steven Jackson will get stuffed a little bit. I think Pete on those screen plays can help loosen up their defense, so keep an eye on the Rams defense and Isaiah Pete. Also for Detroit Lions, keep an eye on Brandon Pettigrew, the tight end, could be a big sleeper in this ball game. Now let's move down to Tennessee as the Patriots take on the Titans. Starts in this ball game, obviously CJ2K, because Locker can't really throw the football downfield like they want him to, so there's going to be a heavy dose of CJ2K, so keep an eye on him. Start him. Also start that Titans defense. Very underrated defense. I think they're going to do a lot of good things this week versus that Patriots passing attack, so start those guys. Now for the Patriots, you want to start those two tight ends, obviously. Gronkowski, Hernandez, both of those guys can flat out play, and they're going to put a lot of pressure on that Titans pass defense. Sits for the week, you want to sit Jake Locker. He's going to be asked to manage the game as opposed to winning the ball game. So you want to sit him if you have him as your starter. And for the Patriots, you want to sit Wes Welker. I think the Titans will do a great job of keeping him bottled up. And any Patriots running backs, do not waste time trying to start a Patriots running back. I don't think any one of those guys will get carries. They will split it out amongst 4 running backs. Sleepers in this ball game. The Patriots defense, quiet as kept, was very solid last year toward the end of the season. That's a sleeper in this ball game. And a sleeper for the Titans would be Kendall Wright, the rookie. If they're going to hit big plays downfield, you want to look at Kendall Wright making big plays. Keep an eye on that. That would be a sleeper in this ball game. Moving up to